Yes, so
Yep.
it's the same script as on the video.
Okay,
Yep.
yes, okay.
You are good to go.
Okay, great. All right, hello. Thank you all for having me. My name is Amelia Reinwald. I'm the Community Education Services Coordinator for the Women's Center of Tarrant County, and we are here this evening to talk about the Play It Safe program, which will be coming to Kennedale High School on the 27th, I believe. So we are just here to do a little bit of a preview of what the program looks like, how it's done in the classroom, and to just go over any questions or concerns that you might have. So first, you should have been given a link that was somehow made available to you, a Vimeo link with a password, and that Vimeo link is actually a showcase of all of the videos that we show for all of Kennedale ISD. So it has the videos from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. I just put them all in the same showcase. If you are wanting to watch the full-length high school videos, they are located in that Vimeo showcase. You would just click on that link, type in the password, and then I think if you go to page 2, that's where all the high school programs are. And you would just select the video that you want to watch. You can select just the video for just the grade that your student is in, or you can watch all of them if you want, have a really fun weekend and just binge watch all of our videos. But other than that, the script for each program is also located in the video description box. So if you're going to watch the 10th grade video, for example, when you click on that video, you'll see in the description box a link to a Google Doc, and that is the script for that particular 10th grade program. So before a little bit over who the Women's Center is, what we do, why we are the ones that offer this program. And I don't have a PowerPoint or anything with me, so I apologize, this will not be very visually stimulating, but I am holding a flyer. So as far as our services go, so the Women's Center is the Rape Crisis Center for Tarrant County. So that means that we are the ones who respond to Tarrant County hospitals if someone presents there and says that they've been sexually assaulted and they need a forensic nursing exam. We are the ones who have an advocate, or will send an advocate to that hospital to be with that survivor through that process. It's a service that we offer 24/7, 365. Any Tarrant County hospital, we will send somebody to be with that person, help answer questions, provide resources, support, really just whatever that person needs in that moment is what we are there to provide. So in addition to that service, we also have a 24-hour crisis hotline. The 24-hour crisis hotline can be used in really any kind of crisis. It doesn't need to be a sexual crime crisis. It can be any kind of crisis that people can call 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And in our department, the one that I'm a part of, in Rape Crisis and Victim Services, the counseling services that we offer in this department are free. So our department has free counseling for anyone who has been the victim of a violent crime or a sexual crime. And we also offer counseling services to that person's support system as well. So it's not just the person who had to endure that type of trauma. We also offer counseling to the people who live with them and support them, who love them, because they need counseling as well. So all counseling in that department is free, and it is for anyone, for all ages, any gender. You do not have to be a lady to get services at the Women's Center. It's for anyone. In addition to counseling in this department, we also have case management, we also have crisis intervention, we have a lawyer and paralegal who work in this department, and they can help with a lot of like family court stuff, things like restraining orders, protective orders, if there's some kind of a child custody thing going on where there's been a history of abuse, we can step in and help with that as well. And then over in this orange square here is our general counseling department. So our general counseling department is just what it sounds like. It's going to be for people who need some counseling, but that don't fit the criteria for victim services. So people with more general mental health issues, or are coping with like short-term life stressors, going through a divorce, or help coping with grief and loss, loss of a job, things like that. So just more general mental health needs or help with getting through a particularly stressful life event. Counseling in that department does have a fee associated with it, but it's on a sliding scale based on your income, and the income chart that they're using is from like 1989, so it's like super cheap. But they also take 2 kinds of Medicaid, Medicare, and insurance through the VA if you have that. Okay, and then we have our Employment Solutions Department, which is actually how the Women's Center started. It started as a jobs program, and it is for anyone who needs a job, needs an income right now. They have programs specially lined up for that population. Or if you're somebody who maybe has a job or has some kind of fixed income, but you need more training or help finding resources in order to get a better paying job or a job that's more suited to your interests, so you can turn it into more of a lifelong career. We have programs for those people as well. So they have a lot of stuff going on. I won't describe them in too much detail because I'm going to mess up how I describe them. But anybody interested, you just need to have a high school diploma or a GED equivalent. So finally, Purple Square. Purple Square is violence prevention and education. So that is my department. So we are part of Rape Crisis and Victim Services, but in violence prevention and education, we focus on providing education to members of the community about sexual violence, domestic violence, things like how those affect different populations. We do the sexual assault training for Fort Worth PD, Arlington PD. We go to several different nursing schools, social work classes, and at the graduate level. Any kind of professional in the community that needs this sort of continuing education, we provide that kind of continuing education. But we also provide education to just groups of adults who just would like to know more about a certain topic. Well, you can come out and talk to any group of adults that would like some education on any of these types of things for, whatever reason that may be. But the biggest thing that we do in this department, what I spend most of my time doing, and why we are all here, is the Play It Safe program. So the Play It Safe program is a child abuse prevention and education program that is meant to help children recognize, respond to, and report potentially abusive situations. So this is a program that the Women's Center has created. It is our program. We researched it, developed it, wrote it, teamed up with a company to make all of the videos. It is our copyright, our program. We are very proud of it, and we do sell it nationally. So if you go to the Play It Safe website, playitsafe.org, you can find lots of information about the different program options and things there, but it is going to be more focused on trying to sell it to you as opposed to getting to actually preview the program, which is why we set up that Vimeo link for you guys, so that way you can watch the full-length video that you need to watch for your student's grade, and you have the opportunity to also read the accompanying script. So the program is scripted. I'll put these down. So it is a scripted program, and that's for a few specific reasons. One is for consistency. We want to make sure that when kids are hearing the program, that they're all hearing the same thing. We don't want one group of 6th graders to hear one set of facts or stories and then have a class on the other side of the school hear a completely different story and a completely different set of numbers. We want them all to hear the same thing. And by keeping it scripted, that's how we can ensure that when we go to a school, every grade level is hearing what they are supposed to hear. And they're hearing the same thing across the board. Another reason is for transparency. We want to make sure that parents and caregivers are able to access our materials, and that way they can have a better idea of exactly what it is their kid is going to be seeing and hearing in the classroom. And best way to do that, of course, is to make it a scripted program. So that way you don't have to wonder about what's being said by this random person from the Women's Center that you don't know. What are they going to be saying to my kid in their class? Well, we can tell you it's going to be what's in this script. So as far as the scripted material goes, the presenters, we call them trainers, they're called Play It Safe trainers, who come to the classrooms, they are employees of the Women's Center. They are not volunteers, they are employees of the Women's Center. Some of them have been with us, I think our longest, I think she just came back for her 11th year, maybe? 11th year with the program. They tend to take the summers off and then come back each school year. So the ones who have been with us longer, they don't rely on the script as much, so they can really just go through all of the stories and do all of the statistics and everything just off the top of their head. And they have the script with them really to just serve as more of a guide, just to make sure they're doing everything in the right order. But for the trainers who are just starting with us, where this is their first school year as a Play It Safe trainer, they obviously are going to need those scripts a lot more. So they're going to be relying on them and looking at them, and at times even straight up, yes, just reading from the script. But it's just to, just so they can get used to it. And the more that they do these, the more they'll get used to the scripts as well. But that is sometimes some feedback that we get, like, why was the person just reading from a script the whole time? Well, because they're probably newer and aren't as used to the material and don't have as much of it memorized. Before I was in this position, I was a Play It Safe trainer, so I have most of these scripts memorized. But I still do need to use them just to make sure I'm doing the stories in the right order. And it even tells you in the script, there's a page that when you turn to it, it says, play the movie. Now it's time to play the movie. So making sure that I'm doing things in the correct order and showing the movie at the point when I'm supposed to show the movie, stuff like that. So when it comes to the content of the program, elementary school is where we really focus on the child abuse prevention part. If you're also an elementary school parent here in Kennedale, we will be coming to Delaney and Patterson in December. So you will have a preview for you guys. It's gonna be separate. It'll be like, I think the last week of November or first week of, it'll be before the actual presentations at the elementary schools. So you will have a separate preview. But when we talk to elementary school students, we're really focusing on the child abuse prevention aspect. So we're going over with kids what the differences are between what we call safe touch, unsafe touch, and confusing touch. Unsafe touch is our term for physical abuse, and confusing touch is our term for sexual abuse. I won't go too much into describing how elementary school works, because that's not why any of y'all are here. And again, elementary school will get its own separate preview where we'll go into it into more detail. But recognizing the different kinds of touch, knowing what is safe, what is unsafe, what would be confusing, and knowing how to respond to those situations and who you need to talk to, who your trusted adults are. That's really what we focus on in elementary school. So we are a mandated program in Kennedale ISD, meaning that this type of education has to be provided to all public schools in the state of Texas, but each district gets to choose how that education is provided. Kennedale has chosen our program as the program for each school to use, so that way there's consistency across all grade levels and content, and kids will be seeing a different program every year, but it will reinforce the same themes and the same messages. So elementary school, so pre-K through, 5th grade, right? Don't elementaries go up to 5th grade now? I think that's right, because they just changed it. But they will have a different program each year, one that is developmentally appropriate for them, but it will cover those same basic messages of the 3 kinds of touch, who your trusted adults are, and our 3-part safety rule, which is to say no, get away, and tell a trusted adult. So we go over that year after year after year. But then once we get to middle school and high school, we start to move away from the child abuse prevention topics, and we get to more very specific topics or specific issues. So in Kennedale, the programs for middle school and high school are all different. And in high school, the 9th graders see, I'm gonna grab our, and again, I apologize for people viewing on YouTube that I don't have a bigger thing to show you, but 9th graders see our Play It Out program. So Play It Out is about sexting and cyberbullying, and it really focuses on probably sexting more than anything, going over the definition, what is it, what are some of the possible legal consequences, but also what are some of the possible emotional consequences, and how a lot of times cyberbullying is very often linked to cases of sexting. But other than those 2 things, it also really focuses on what the difference is between having your physical identity, so who you are in the real world, and then your digital identity, so who you are when you're online, because very often they are not the exact same people. But talking about how just because you have identities really in two different spaces, that doesn't mean that they're never going to intersect. And talking about how things that happen online can cross over and have consequences in the real world, right? And sometimes maybe even vice versa. So really going over, a lot of it is internet safety, about privacy settings and things like that, but we're focusing on sexting and cyberbullying as the two biggest issues that are encountered by high schoolers when it comes to what we've heard from counselors. So the 9th grade program, the script is ours, rewrote the script. The video, however, is not our video. The 9th grade video is one that we have licensed from a different company, and we wrote the script to fit this video. I say that because you will see in the 9th grade video, it is a little bit dated, and by dated, I mean like 2009. Can you believe that that's already old? 2009 is old in terms of technology. So you do see like some older Nokia phones and like some older laptops and some questionable hairstyles and jeans. But even though the things you're looking at might be old or outdated, the information itself is still good, and it's the best one that we've found. As far as talking about sexting and realistically what that looks like and what your options are as a teenager if something like this happens to you. And also what parents can do. So that's the 9th grade video, so just keep that in mind. The script is ours, but the video is not. So there's really nothing we can do to change that one. But the 10th graders see our program called It's Called Rape. And pretty self-explanatory, I think it's in the title, but it really just goes over sexual assault, what the legal definition is in Texas, and we go over some different scenarios with stories that we tell involving some real life clients whose names are changed, but who are, high school aged. And we talk about those stories, and it's an interactive program. Questions are written into the script, so it's meant to be a back and forth, type of thing. We go over the stories and we ask questions to really gauge what their level of understanding is and what they think the next best steps should be, and depending on the different circumstances in each story. But we also stress that safety rule that they learned, hopefully, if they were here in Kennedale when they were younger, which is to say no, get away if you can, and tell a trusted adult, right? So that's for 10th grade. It's really just going over the basics of what sexual assault is, what consent is, what it means, and talking about some different scenarios where consent was not given, or where maybe it was a little bit hard to understand, and you might need some more clarification about whether consent was applied correctly in this instance or in this instance, or whether the person should have done this or done that. Again, it's written to be interactive. So that's 10th grade. Then we have 11th grade. 11th grade sees our program that's called Seeing the Signs, going over dating violence. And that one is also just what it sounds like. It really goes over what abusive relationships look like for high school age kids, for kids who are still teenagers. It often, of course, very much looks like what a domestic violence relationship looks like for, to adults. But there are some things that are unique to high schoolers, to teenagers, that make what their abusive relationships look like can be a little bit different. For instance, technology usually plays a much bigger role. So we go over what the different types of abuse are that are frequently seen in abusive relationships, which are emotional and verbal abuse, physical abuse, and sexual abuse, and going over what those mean and what those can look like in the context of a relationship. We also tell some stories in that script as well, and going over with the kids, okay, so what about this relationship that I just told you about? What about it was unhealthy? What were some of the unhealthy things that y'all heard me talk about? What were some of the things that sounded like this was an abusive situation, or could become an abusive situation? And we also go over the cycle of violence. So the cycle of violence is the same for any abusive abusive relationship, whether you're a teenager or an adult. It's the honeymoon phase, the hearts and flowers, puppy dogs and popsicles, rainbows and hearts phase, followed by attention phase, which is where someone does something that the abusive partner does not like or does not agree with, and tension is built, then tension is formed, but then how that tension is dealt with is what determines whether that is a healthy or unhealthy relationship. So we go over, well, what are some ways that you can deal with tension in a healthy way? Are you allowed to disagree with your boyfriend or girlfriend? Of course you are. So if you disagree with them, what are some healthy ways that you can settle that disagreement? What are some things that you could do in order to dissolve that tension, but still be respectful and kind to one another? But if you aren't able to do that, or if you don't know how to do that, then your relationship moves into the explosion phase, which is where an instance of abuse happens, right? And it can look different for different couples, but the key part here is that after the explosion phase, the couple goes right back to the beginning, right? And goes right back to that honeymoon, hearts and flowers, kissy kissy phase, because the abusive partner apologized and the other person forgives them. And so we go over why that might be, why somebody might forgive someone who abuses them in such a way. Why would they continue to be with them? Why would they continue the relationship? So that one's actually my favorite one to do. It always sparks some good discussions with high school students, but that's what the 11th graders see. And then finally we come to 12th grade. So 12th grade sees our program that's called Speak Out and Stand Up. You will notice in the thumbnail for the video that it is the actress Kristen Stewart from Twilight. We do not have the budget to hire Kristen Stewart, so this is not our video either. This is one that we also license, and it has Kristen Stewart in it as the narrator because it is actually a companion video to a movie that she starred in. I could not tell you what year it came out, I apologize, but a movie that she starred in called Speak. And in the movie, she plays a character who's sexually assaulted, and it follows like her character in dealing with the aftermath of that. So apparently it was a movie that was also made available to high schools across the nation, and it came with a companion DVD to watch with it. And so that is the DVD, that is the movie essentially that the 12th graders are watching. You don't need to see the actual film. It's not like they go over any plot points in the movie or anything. The DVD companion piece is really just Kristen Stewart narrating what sexual assault can look like in a variety of circumstances, but specifically aimed at like the college age population, which is why this one is for seniors, because the stories that are covered in the video are taking place on a college campus. So we thought that would be pertinent for 12th graders. If any of them plan on going to college or university, then they might encounter situations kind of like the one in the movie. But we also go over what some of the different legal options are, because once you turn 18 and become an adult, the way that things are reported and the way that you can be held accountable for things changes. So we do go over a lot of legal stuff in the 12th grade program, but we do also go over, again, the basic definitions of consent and sexual assault. We talk about different scenarios where it might not be as clear about whether consent was given, so what are some things that you can do when you're not sure if you have consent or not? Things like that. Now, while the video itself does focus on, like in the video, in the story that they're telling, that she's narrating, the victim is a female, and then the little interviews that they have kind of spread out, like interspersed throughout the story, are with real victims who are also female. So it is a female centered, I guess you could say, video. However, that's just for that video. The script itself, if you do read the script that we wrote to go with this video, we do spend a lot of time going over the fact that men can be and frequently are victims of sexual assault as well. We really wanted to make sure that that was not glossed over or that this was in any way portraying men as only the attackers. That is definitely not the case. And we just spent a lot of time discussing why we don't have as many reports of men being the victims of sexual assault. Like, what are some things that might be keeping men and boys from reporting? Why aren't they reporting as often as we're pretty sure it happens? Stuff like that. So I really encourage you to read the whole script if you have a 12th grade student, in case there was something about the video that you didn't like. But again, also not our video, so while feedback is appreciated, not much we can do to change that one. But yeah, so those are all of the programs for all of the different grade levels. We go into the classroom and we do this on a class-by-class basis. What's unique about this program is that it is not done auditorium style. We do not do this like to big, large groups. That's because we want this to be a program that where everybody can feel as comfortable as possible. It's not a fun topic, but we found that it's easiest for kids to be engaged, to answer our questions, feel comfortable asking questions, and just feel more comfortable in general if they're in a place where they feel that feels familiar and a place where they feel safest. And with high school, we do typically have to go through a core class in order to ensure that all of the students are seen. So the core class changes, every year, but basically I send a team of Play It Safe trainers to the high school for the day. They kind of park themselves in that core teacher's class, and kids will come to class as normal. We don't want to disrupt their daily schedule or routine any more than we have to. So they would come to class as normal, but instead of having English, for example, that day, they would see our program instead. So the program does last about the length of a class period, about 45 to 50 minutes. We come one time a year. And yeah, every year that we're here, if your student is in Kennedale, they will see us pre-K up until they graduate from high school, and they will see a different program. So yeah, so that's how the program is done in the classroom. We do occasionally get outcries from students who have been sexually assaulted, in which case we would refer them usually either to the counselor or social worker, whoever our contact is for that day, or sometimes even we might need to bring in the school resource officer if there's something where there's an immediacy to it and a report needs to be filed. But we would follow up with whichever method is the most appropriate depending on that outcry. But yeah, so while I'm here, are there any questions from parents here in the audience? I hope I covered everything. Yes?
Do you offer any trigger warnings before any of these?
Okay, it's a good question. She asked if we offer any sort of trigger warnings. It's not in the script. However, the expectation is that it is something that the counselor or maybe even the teacher would take care of before we get there. We do sometimes have, like, our more seasoned trainers will say that, if anybody needs to, get up at any point during the presentation and leave the room for whatever reason, you're more than welcome to do that. However, we've found that sometimes by stating, hey, if you're feeling triggered, you can get up and leave the room, and then if a kid does that, it kind of singles that kid out as having experienced something, which might have been the case, or it might be that they just really had to go to the bathroom. But so it's usually easier if the counselor or social worker or even the teacher prefaces our program before we arrive. But that's a good question. Any other? Yes.
What's different about this year that we're having to approve as parents?
Okay, so she asked what is different about this year that we're having to approve for the program for your kid to see. So they passed a law last legislative session that is to take effect starting this school year, where all kinds of programming like this, programming that has this kind of subject matter, programming that contains things that fall under certain portions of health education and sexuality education have to have parental permission. So because we go over sexual assault and because we go over dating violence, those two topics technically fall under the health curriculum, and it has to now obtain parental permission before a student can see it. It used to be, years past, that if you did not want your child to see any of our programs in any grade level, you would simply opt them out. You would just check a little box or sign a little thing saying, I do not want my child to see the program. And then those students would just be pulled out while we're there giving the presentations. But it was assumed that if you didn't sign that form or check that box, you were fine with your kid seeing it. You only had to sign it if you didn't want them to see it. But now it's the other way around. So now it's, if you want your kid to see it, great. You still have to sign a form giving permission. Or if you don't want your kid to see it, I believe it's on the same form, right, Bethany?
Yeah, we're doing opt-in or just declining so that we know you've seen it, and we don't have to keep asking, have you seen this?
Right, yeah, so it's on the same form. You would either check yes, they have permission, or no, I am declining to give permission at this time. But you do have to mark one or the other. If you just leave it blank or don't fill it out at all, like Bethany said, they will keep bugging you until you do. Following up, that's a nicer way to say it. They will keep following up with you because they just want to know either way what it is that you would like for your student to do. And for the students who are not given permission to see it, I'm not sure exactly what the plan is for them that day. I believe it's to see a TED Talk.
Yeah, we have an alternate assembly that we'll do.
Yeah, so they'll just see an alternate assembly. They'll just go somewhere else for that class period instead of see our program. So, yeah, good question. Anything else? Great. Okay. Well, that's really all I have. I've left the scripts up here just for people to kind of read through if they'd like while they're here. Just please make sure you don't leave with them. I do need them back. But yeah, otherwise I'll hang around for a couple more minutes in case anyone has questions. But that is all the info I have for you this evening. And thank you all so much for coming out. Really, really, really appreciate it.